Good afternoon, guys. Whenever I upload this, I really wanted to take some time and let my brain process what has happened. Sunday, I was hit with some serious bad news, and I think the geek community, the comic book community, we were hit with some bad news as well. We all were hit with it, and it was just a terrible way to start the week, in my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, we have lost the great Peter David. Author, writer, father. He was a lot of things. To me, he was just a great writer that I admired and enjoyed. But to probably people in his life, he was more than just that. He was 68. 68. You know, that's what really gets me right there. It's like he was only 68. And for anybody to come on and say he was old, stop. Please stop. Don't. But I know that he was having some health issues, and I know there was a GoFundMe helping him, and I contribute to it. I contribute to it a lot because I admired him and I was wanting him to get better. But unfortunately, I guess it didn't. And it's really sad to know that we lost another great. Another legend ascends to the heavens, and that hurts the most. But the one thing I will say, and I don't want to really bring it down, but I will always thank him for his contributions to the industry, to the legacy of certain characters. His legacy will be way above the stratosphere. From his incredible, no pun intended, run on the Hulk, for his run with Young Justice. Yes, he wrote Young Justice, to all the stuff he did with X Factor. Just so many contributions that this man has given us. He even dipped his hands in one of the classic pulp era heroes, The Phantom, which I thought he did a very good job at. And he is the man that gave us Future Imperfect. It is Peter David who gave us the Maestro, the twisted future version of the Hulk. And more importantly, found out he was the man somewhat responsible for the outcome of Fatal Attraction in the X-Men. I just watched a video, it's an X-Men video, where many different creators of X-Men are talking the evolution of the X-Men, and they brought up Fatal Attraction. And I'm forgetting who it was, and they basically were going back and forth for how we're going to end Fatal Attraction, and then they said, and Peter David just screamed out, "Why don't you have Magneto rip the metal out of him?" And then they all looked at him like, are you crazy? And then he said, I'm kidding. But it turns out, it was Mr. David all along. Respect. I have had the pleasure of meeting Peter David on many occasions at various conventions, from New York Comic Con to MegaCon. I remember he was at MegaCon once, but most of the time I met him it was at New York Comic Con, and I always enjoyed his spirit, and always enjoyed his knowledge, and he was just full of energy. Anytime I saw him, I'd always ask him, "How you doing, Mr. David?" And he'd be like, "I'm great, and I'm glad to be here." He would always just smile at me and drop some knowledge on me. I would ask him some questions, and he was always willing to give his 411 on what he feels, and I will always appreciate that about him. You know, I am gracious to been able to have experienced him in my life, even to the point just as a fan, not as a personal friend, but as a fan. You know, I'm gonna miss Mr. David's cliffhangers. He was the king of cliffhangers. He really was. He was the king of that. You always expected a cliffhanger ending, a Peter David cliffhanger ending when it came to him, as no matter what he was writing. And those are the things definitely I'm gonna miss about him. You know, but yes, this is the man that gave us the great run of the Hulk. You know, we got Peter David went deep into why is the Hulk so angry? Where does that come from? Nobody really explored that. Not even Jack and Mr. Stan Lee. They didn't explore that. They really didn't explore his anger, but Peter David did, and hence we knew that the anger from the Hulk really stirs from Robert Banner, Bruce's father. We got that because of him. We got the Gray Hulk. Well, you know, Mr. Fix-It, because of Peter David. Like I said, Future Imperfect. It is Peter David that gave us Miguel O'Hare, Spider-Man of 2099. So again, if you got your Spider-Man 2099, that first edition, hold on to that, cherish it, because he wrote it, and you should honor him by keeping that. Honor the things that he wrote, because that's his legacy. It's not just his writing, but his legacy and his contributions go far beyond that. I've been on and reading many different writers give their experience of what Mr. David was like and what he contributed and how he was around them and some of the advice, and I love hearing stuff like that. The bottom line, he was just a good soul, and from what I understand, and from what who was it that wrote something? I think it was Jim Lee who said, if Peter liked you, you were good with him, and so I appreciate that. I love that about him. But it is very heartbreaking to hear, and I didn't really want to hear that. I was like, oh please God, no. When I saw it, I was like, no, because I saw his name trending. I'm like, no, please God, no, please. And I looked and I said, so everywhere I've gone on social media, I've put up posts of me and him together, and I'm just giving my opinion on. And like I said, my heart goes out to the David family. Thank you to the David family. Thank you for sharing your husband, your dad with us. Thank you for allowing him to grace us with his presence in the writings he's done. Thank you for just him in general. We are greatly appreciative of it. I hope the geek community really is, because for me, it is. And with that being said, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Rest in peace, Mr. David. If you have any thoughts on Peter David, please leave it in the comment section down below. And I'm going to end it with something Peter David wanted in I guess in Marvel movies. It's a storyline he really wanted them to explore live action wise. Check it out. But with that being said, you guys take care. Deuces.
I would do Future Imperfect. Future Imperfect was a two-part story that I wrote a number of years ago that was beautifully penciled by George Perez. And it basically flips the concept of the Terminator. Instead of having somebody from the future come into the past to deal with a problem, although in this case the problem was trying to change the future, I had the Hulk be transported into the future to deal with something that only the Hulk could possibly deal with. And in the case of Future Imperfect, it was a future incarnation of himself. The Hulk had gone completely batshit crazy and had become a villain called the Maestro, who is the ruler of what is left of the world many decades in the future. And I always thought the Future Imperfect would be a great Hulk movie because you don't have to have all the other Avengers in it. You don't have to worry about any of that. It would just focus on the Hulk of the future and modern day Hulk being transported into the future to have to deal with him. And I think that that could be really, really entertaining.